The roar of motorcycles echoed down the street, causing pedestrians to glance nervously. A group of bikers pulled up to the bus stop, their engines growling as they revved them up, filling the air with the sharp, invasive sound. There, sitting calmly on the bench, was a man. He wore simple clothes, a faded t-shirt and jeans, his face partially hidden beneath a cap. His dark skin was a contrast to the pale faces of the bikers, who looked down on him with sneers. One of the bikers, a towering figure with tattoos covering both arms, stepped forward. "You waiting for something or just taking up space?" he sneered, his voice dripping with condescension. The others laughed, their eyes narrowing with malicious amusement. The man on the bench didn't respond. He just sat there, his hands folded neatly in his lap, his gaze fixed straight ahead. His lack of reaction only seemed to aggravate the bikers more. Without warning, one of the bikers shoved the man's shoulder roughly. "What's your problem, man? Cat got your tongue?" The man didn't flinch. Instead, he took a slow breath, as if completely unfazed. "Don't let it be easy," one of the other bikers muttered, stepping forward, preparing to provoke him further. Another biker, this one wearing dark sunglasses and a leather vest, came up behind the man and pulled his cap off. The man's head remained motionless, still calm, not even looking up. "How long do you plan on letting us mess with you?" the biker taunted. The other bikers circled around him, sensing the power dynamic shift. "Yeah, what's the matter? You scared?" Still, the man did not react. The silence broke as one of the bikers swung a punch at the man's side, hitting him squarely. The force of the blow would have sent most people stumbling, but not him. The man didn't even twitch. He remained seated, unmoving. The bikers froze. Was he unfazed? The biker who punched him backed away, his knuckles stinging. "What the hell? You didn't even move," he barked, clearly frustrated. The others exchanged uncertain glances, trying to understand what was happening. Was this guy made of stone? Not willing to back down, another biker moved in, this time aiming a harder punch at the man's face. But just as the fist was about to land, the man's arm shot up with lightning speed and caught the punch mid-air. He gripped the biker's hand firmly, his muscles flexing under the pressure. The bikers stared in disbelief. This wasn't the response they had been expecting. The man slowly stood up, his presence suddenly towering over the bikers. His shirt stretched tight over bulging muscles, the definition of his physique undeniable. It was clear now. He wasn't just some ordinary man. He was powerful, and they had just made a dangerous mistake. "You don't want to do this," the man said, his voice calm yet filled with authority. The bikers hesitated, unsure of what to do next. "We're just having some fun," one of them stammered, trying to backtrack. "You call this fun?" The man's voice was low, dangerous. "Maybe you should find a new hobby." In a flash, the man's fist flew out, striking the biker who had punched him. The biker went down instantly, crumpling to the ground like a rag doll. His friends gasped in shock. "Who's next?" the man asked, his tone calm but unmistakably threatening. One of the bikers backed away, eyes wide with fear. "We don't need this. Let's get out of here," he shouted, pulling his bike's throttle and revving it. The others hesitated, caught between fear and pride, but the leader of the gang, still determined to show he wasn't intimidated, lunged at the man, swinging wildly. The man dodged with ease, grabbing the biker by the wrist and flipping him to the ground with a quick, effortless movement. The bikers were now realizing that this was no ordinary person they were dealing with. The one who'd been flipped groaned in pain but didn't try to get up. "Strength isn't about how tough you look," the man said, his voice cutting through the air. "It's about knowing when to show restraint and when to act." He took a step closer to the remaining bikers who were slowly backing away now. "Violence isn't a game," he continued. "You think you're better than everyone else because you can push people around? Think again." One of the bikers, looking at the scene before him, suddenly realized the consequences of his actions. "We didn't know," he started, his voice small. "It's never too late to learn," the man replied, his gaze steady. "Leave now," the man said firmly, "and remember this lesson the next time you think you can push someone around for fun." The bikers hesitated, exchanging unsure looks. Then, slowly, one by one, they began to retreat, mounting their bikes and driving off. As the last of the bikers disappeared down the street, the man stood in silence for a moment. His gaze lingered on the empty bus stop. He wiped his hands on his jeans and sat back down, as if nothing had happened. A bystander who had witnessed the whole scene approached cautiously. Who are you?" he asked, his voice shaky from the intensity of the confrontation. The man smiled faintly, but didn't respond. Instead, he simply looked back at the road, waiting for the bus. Minutes passed, and the world returned to its normal rhythm. The sound of traffic filled the air, and the man continued to sit, undisturbed. The earlier chaos seemed to have vanished as quickly as it had appeared. As the man waited for his bus, he thought about the encounter. It wasn't about showing off his strength. It wasn't about retaliation or revenge. It was about standing up against arrogance and injustice. In that moment, he realized that sometimes people who seem weak or passive aren't the ones you should underestimate. It's the quiet ones, the calm ones, who may have the power to change everything. Violence doesn't make you strong, it makes you a coward. True strength is measured by your ability to remain calm in the face of adversity and to use your power wisely, not recklessly. The bus finally arrived, breaking the quiet. The man stood up, adjusted his shirt, and boarded. The other passengers barely noticed him, too caught up in their own lives. As the bus doors closed, the man sat by the window, staring out at the road. His thoughts drifted to the bikers, hoping they'd learned something today. A familiar figure caught his eye outside the window. A biker standing alone on the sidewalk, watching the bus. His posture was different now, less arrogant, more introspective. Was he regretting his actions? The man on the bus knew he couldn't change the past, but maybe, just maybe, he had planted a seed in someone's mind. Perhaps it would grow into something better. He wasn't looking for recognition. He wasn't seeking applause. He knew that real heroes don't need praise. They simply act when they see injustice, and they make a difference without fanfare. What the bikers learned wasn't just about physical strength. It was about humility and respect. Real power, after all, lies in understanding the world around you and knowing when to stand your ground. The bus reached the next stop, and the man stood up to leave. He nodded briefly at the driver, then stepped off into the street. His journey was far from over. The actions of one person can create a ripple effect, influencing others in ways you might never see. What had seemed like a simple act of defense had, in fact, ignited a chain of thoughts that could change lives. The man walked into the distance, his shoulders set, his pace steady. The lesson wasn't over. In the end, the true strength lay not in how he stood up to the bikers, but in how he remained composed, showing that self-control, not force, is the greatest power of all.